oh my goodness, we are so excited to show you our new product for photo booths at weddings and parties, bar mitzvahs, baby showers, what have you. This product is for an open air photo booth, which is different from the regular traditional photo booths that you see in the malls and at corporate parties, because an open air booth allows a photographer to just bring a camera and bring some props and set up shop pretty much anywhere in the ceremony site and have a photo booth with guests to come in and out. You don't have the stress of hauling around a super heavy machine and having to deal with the mechanics of it and the technical support. This is a really simple way to make extra money with your wedding clients. Our kit includes everything that you need to create your own open air photo booth, except for the camera and the photographer, of course. Not pictured here is the 8-page booklet that comes with our download, which has pricing information and pre-written text for your clients on why they should have a photo booth, how much it costs, what the process is for having a booth at your wedding. And then on top of that, the download also comes with the design for these adorable accordion mini books, which make a fabulous thank you gift for the bride and groom to groomsmen and bridesmaids. It also makes great gifts for parents or just a memoir for the bride and groom. This is included in the download, and it's really easy to stick your pictures in here. It's got all the cute illustrations from the photo booth products, which we'll see in a minute. It also comes with this awesome sign to tell your guests at the wedding where the photo booth is and what to do. It's basically pick a prop and strike a pose. It's that simple to get wonderful, silly, awesome pictures. And a lot of times the bride and groom say that the photo booth pictures are some of the most memorable photos of the event. So we highly recommend you selling a open air photo booth at weddings. So it comes with this sign, and then of course our favorite part is the actual prop downloads. These are printables on 8.5 by 11. Everything you see here was printed by Bay Photo, who's our sponsoring lab. We cannot recommend them enough. They have incredible color, incredible customer service. They are so fast, and they printed everything here. They are doing an amazing job with pretty much everything that Galler.ee makes. So if you're wondering who to print with Bay Photo. You get this kit. It's ready to go in the mail. Just follow my directions on assembling your photo booth products, and you will be able to easily add on $1,000 packages to your regular wedding packages. So without further ado, this is how you create a photo booth with this download product from Galler.ee. This won't take very much time. Everything that you see here on the table is everything that you're gonna need for actually making this product. It's very inexpensive, it's fun, and it's kind of a nice evening craftsy fun project that you can do over and over. You can reuse the product over and over for multiple weddings, or you can cut them out, each one depending on how much they get used during the actual photo booth itself. So I'm going to start by showing you the wood that you need. This is about a 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch thick balsa wood. It doesn't really matter if you have the exact same piece of wood that's shown here. The most important part is that the sides are flat, so that when you go to glue your paper to your wood, it doesn't roll and it glues nicely and easily, because you want it to be stuck on there pretty firmly when people are waving it around in the booth. I got this at Michael's. You can also get them at Home Depot's or Lowe's or any hobby or craft store in your area. They're very inexpensive, and they come, the one that I bought at least, comes in this length. And believe it or not, you don't need any fancy equipment to cut them. While I was at the craft store, I also purchased a pack of scissors. It was a 2-for-1 deal. And it was about $7, and both of these are nice scissors. They feel pretty good in your hand. I'm using one to cut the wood, and I'm using one to cut the paper, because if you use one to cut the wood and then try to cut the paper with it, it's going to be a little bit dull. So use a pair of scissors, either that's been floating around the house and that's not super sharp, or one that you don't mind getting a little bit warped, and you can use it later for cutting different types of material that might be thicker than paper. The actual printout
props you can do yourself. They're on standard 8.5 by 11 paper. We got ours printed with Bay Photo on their 130-pound matte paper. You can probably have these printed at any photo lab of your choice, and if you want to do it at home, that's great too. You can do it any way you want. The only thing I would recommend is to make sure you're printing it on some kind of cardstock. Obviously, the printing quality will, it won't make a huge difference in the photo booth, but it will make some difference, and your clients will be able to feel. If you just used regular sheet paper, it would be very flimsy and it wouldn't hold up when they're holding the prop to their face. So you want something that's sturdy, that holds color really well. It's really great when you have super colorful props to pop on the photos for the booth. We ordered these from Bay Photo. I believe there are 5 or 6 different printable sheets in this download. Bay Photo has an option where you can order just four cards at a time, so they printed out 4 of each of our designs per sheet. So we actually have, we have 4 king's crowns and 4 mustaches, which is good because then if you mess up or if one gets bent at a wedding, then you have the rest in reserve for later. So once you have your printable, the only thing left that you need is some kind of adhesive to bind the prop to the stick of wood. I'm going to use a glue gun. You have to be really careful with these because they can get really hot. Right before I did this video, I actually dripped some onto my finger and it took a little bit of my skin off. And so if you're going to do this, make sure not to have kids around, make sure not to have pets that trip on the cord. Just be really careful. You can also use tape, but it doesn't look as great. It looks a little bit cheap when you turn it around, and it can be flimsy. It can kind of come undone when you're waving it around a lot. So if you do use tape, make sure to use some kind of a packing tape or thick tape that isn't going to come off. Don't use Scotch tape, that's bad. Don't use a glue stick. Elmer's can be okay, but you have to make sure that the glue sets. So I recommend a glue gun or maybe super glue, just something that's gonna be useful for wood and paper, and it's gonna be really strong. The first thing that you want to do when you get your balsa wood stick is you want to cut it down to size. I don't really have an exact measurement on what would be the best length to do this in. All the sticks that I cut already have been between 6 and 10 inches. It sort of depends on the prop. When you have something like a hat or a tiara, you want to have your stick a little bit longer than, say, a mustache or a pair of lips. That's because, it's a longer way from your hand to your head than it is from your hand to your mouth or your nose. So you want to compensate for that by lengthening your stick a little bit, but honestly it doesn't make a huge difference. I would just recommend keeping it pretty short. I think that these are a great length. This is about 6 inches and this is about 10 inches. And I think that that's perfect because it gives you space to have the actual prop in your hand as well as being in the picture. Some people prefer not to have their hand showing with the prop in the photo, and some people just raise their hand and put it wherever they want, in front of their face or in front of their chest. Either one is fine, it still creates the same effect. If I want to cut my piece of balsa wood, because this is far too long when it comes out of the craft store, I'm going to take my wood scissors and cut kind of in the middle of the piece of wood, just like this. And it's very easy, happy wood to cut. It doesn't make a mess, it's not difficult, you don't need to break out the chainsaw or anything. Make sure that when you do cut it somewhat in the middle. You can probably get 1 to 3 sticks out of each piece of wood depending on how long you want them. In this particular case, I'm going to leave this one as is. It's a little bit longer, but it could still be useful, maybe for a hat or a crown. And this stick would be, this one's about, I would say, 11 inches long, and this would be perfect for a mustache. You see my hand holding it, and then you would have the mustache at the end. So once you have your wood cut, which should take all of 30 seconds, it's time for the fun part, to cut out the actual pieces of prop. I'm going to start with the king's crown, and I'm going to show you how I would do it. Sorry, I forgot to mention this. I also have a small pair of scissors that's good for getting into little nooks and crannies in the prop. You don't need these, but I highly recommend them for smaller areas. Here we have a tiara, which has really, really small, intricate pieces to cut out, and it would be a lot easier to do this with a small pair of scissors than a large pair of scissors. So So I do have these on hand just in case. I'm going to begin by cutting around the crown. Now don't worry about getting exactly cut on the line. It doesn't need to be perfect. It can have some white space around it. It's not going to take away from the effect of the prop. So I'm going to give this probably about 1/8 of an inch wide kind of a margin while I cut to make sure that I don't cut any of the prop out. Everyone has their own method of cutting. I just like to go slowly and steadily. After a while, you'll get the hang of it and it'll go pretty quickly. I finished cutting out my crown and now the only thing left to do is glue the stick on. This is a very simple, easy task and will only take a few seconds. The only thing that we need to think about is the actual position of the stick where it's glued on the piece of paper. The reasoning for this is because if you have something like a crown and you glue the stick in the middle of the crown, then when the person holds it up in the photo booth, the stick is going to be right in the middle of their face and it's going to look a little bit awkward. So for something like a crown, I recommend gluing probably about 3/4 to the side, one side or the other. It doesn't really matter. I wouldn't recommend gluing it super at the edge because then it's gonna be flimsy and look kind of weird in the picture. Depending on the thickness of the paper, if you have something like this, it's gonna wobble and it might not look the best in the photo booth. So I'm gonna pick a position, as I said, about 3/4 of the way across. I'm gonna use my glue gun. I'm gonna be careful not to glue my skin this time. And I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the stick. It really doesn't take much. You can kind of snail's trail it with the end of the glue gun to make sure that you have the glue applied firmly throughout the stick. And then you just press down where you want the stick to be on the crown. I recommend putting the stick as far as you can up the piece vertically so that it's stable. So I'm gonna glue it down right about here and I'm gonna hold it. And usually the glue gun just takes a few seconds to dry, so I'm gonna give it a little bit of time. And when I feel that it's stable and stuck on there pretty well, ta-da, there we go! You've got your first photo booth piece. It's pretty stable on the stick. I would give it a little bit more to dry, but nobody wants to wait around for glue to dry while watching a YouTube, so I'm just going to keep it as is. Here we go, and then rinse and repeat for the rest of them. That's it. That's it for now, everybody. We hope you have tons of fun with your new photo booth product, and we hope it brings you lots of clients. Thanks again from Galler.